We have a lot to get into in Mets land because we did a video earlier the past day on Mets' latest signing, Eddie Rosario. Make sure to check that out in case you haven't already. Thank you all so much in advance for doing so. Broke down the latest on that front, why Eddie Rosario is the latest depth outfielder pickup for David Stearns and the Mets. But now we're going to break down some key updates, not only on Starling Marte's health, Christian Scott, but ultimately how the Mets still have an opportunity to make a splash before the month's end, should not only they wish, but should the opportunity be presented. And things are all pointing in direction for that exact thing to be presented. So let's get into what exactly that is, folks. But before I do, make sure to smash a like and subscribe on as your first chime in. And shout out to our amazing sponsor, as always, BetUS, who has you covered all your sports betting needs, the sponsor of today's video. And let's hear a quick word from our great friends at Just That.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Let's start with that. Briefly, that you guys know. Christian Scott, who has been on the shelf, started to ramp up, was shut down for 2 weeks, finally started throwing. He threw again today for the second time and looked very solid in doing so. Here we go. Christian Scott sprained UCL, resumed throwing Sunday. He said he threw again today. He'll get up to 90 feet tomorrow. So Christian Scott is feeling healthy. There is no injury currently with the elbow, no inflammation, nothing of that nature. Scott, who was brilliant when he was first called up by the Mets this season, who otherwise didn't look so great his past couple outings, more so just because, again, couldn't pitch to lefties whatsoever. His lefty versus righty splits were so obnoxious at the MLB level and couldn't go at least one outing without giving up a home run. Christian Scott, what is he trying to do? Command the strike zone that he has done beautifully throughout his young professional career. Doesn't walk anybody, but he does give up that long ball at least once every start. So Scott, when he gets back and he's ramping up and healthy, should the Mets utilize him as a starter option, as a multi-inning reliever option? All we know is that Scott will likely be back with the Mets before the end of the season, barring any changes, and this is an arm that can absolutely be an X factor for them. Let's not forget how solid Christian Scott actually is when he's healthy and injury-free. This is a guy that obviously has fluctuated with his health throughout the season and getting acclimated at the MLB level, has been on an innings limit because he has a partially torn UCL. The Mets dealt with it a year ago and avoided Tommy John. They dealt with it again and avoided Tommy John. Will he probably need it at some point? I think that goes without saying. Of course, we're going to knock on wood here. But for Christian Scott, the Mets' exciting young right-hander, he will be back with the Mets sooner rather than later, should the Mets find themselves continuing to push for postseason play. If that is not the case, then I'm sure that there won't be as much of an adamancy for the Mets to try to ramp up Scott to have as many fresh, young, lively arms as possible. Because again, even if you utilize Christian Scott as a reliever, you can be very strategic in said situations should you go down the lengths of doing that. If you want to add him as, say, your additional arm later on this season when rosters expand. Again, not saying it's a guarantee that the Mets will do, but something that they are, I'm sure, pondering. What are they going to do with Christian Scott this season? I guarantee you that a part of the reason why they helped avoid him surgery and did everything right isn't just because they want to make sure that he avoids surgery and is out for the next year plus, but also fresh and to see if he can be a factor for the Mets before the end of the season. So Christian Scott continues to trend in the right direction, has some positive things to say to the media today, and we're definitely never going to complain when those things are happening. So that is the latest there on Christian Scott. Now let's get into the latest here on Starling Marte, and then we will get into our biggest update of all today. And Starling Marte, all I got to show you guys, hey, look, we're live right now on Twitter. Isn't that cool? What you guys can see right now is the following. This is star-studded Starling making a defensive play. Yes, I'm not joking. Watch it with me, everybody. Yes. Oh, wait, you probably can't see it as I zoom in on it. No problem. Starling Marte, who got the start at AAA today, made a fantastic catch that we saw in right field. Now, Starling, did he play a little shallow on that ball? It's possible. I have no clue what the read was for the opposing batter there. But Starling Marte, who has struggled with his defense oh so mightily this season, is looking to impact the Mets both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball as soon as this week. Yes, you heard that correctly, everybody. Starling Marte, who had at least one hit that we saw in his minor league game for the Syracuse Mets tonight, and continuing to look fresh with his legs in the corner outfield and stealing bags. Starling Marte is going to return the Mets literally ASAP. The only reason why he hasn't yet is because the Mets want to make sure he gets in back-to-back game action. Expect Marte to be back in the line, back playing in the outfield yet again tomorrow. And as long as that all goes well, then it will be up to Stearns and the Mets to decide when do they want to call up Marte. Are they going to bring him back for, say, to kick off not the Oakland A's series, but to really kick off maybe the Miami Marlins series against his former team? I think that makes a lot of sense for him before they have Baltimore as well. So Starling Marte, everything is aligning for him to return this week. And the reason why this is so important for some Mets fans that maybe have written off Starling Marte this season, he has been a lightning rod of a bat with them when he has been healthy this season. And Starling Marte, in clutch situations this year and runners in scoring position, he has been a 300 to 400 hitter this year in the most important high leverage situations that you could find yourself asking. Again, 2-out hitting, runners in scoring position, high leverage. Starling Marte has been one of the best hitters for the Mets this season, albeit he hasn't played a game. We're going all the way back to, I believe, what was it, June 22nd? How long he's been out, if not longer. No less Marte, when he was healthy and out there, the defense was a liability? Absolutely. We were all ragging on him going back to even the Mets and the Phillies London trip there, where he just looked brutal there on that one play where he was playing shallow there in right field there in London. We all know Starling Marte is not known for his defensive upside at this point, but that offense high in this lineup, again, all the more reason why you need to move Brandon Nimmo down, in my opinion. Move him down the line for Brandon Nimmo, who's been batting right around 150 at best. Post All-Star break, it's been really bad for Brandon, who's striking out at a ridiculous clip. I can count on my hand the amount of RBIs he has throughout that span. Brandon Nimmo, move him down in the order. Put Starling Marte back up in the order as that two-hitter that we've seen time and time again. There isn't even a true reason to have him lower in the order, in my opinion, because the Mets have depth offensively, but it's been that top that's hurt them. That number 2 hole has been a glaring hole with them for pretty much the past month or close to because of Brandon Nimmo. Take Nimmo out of the 2 spot, move him lower in the order. Anywhere from 6 to 9, I think makes a lot of sense for Brandon to finally get back in a groove of things and then have Marte back there in the top 3 of the order. I think that makes a lot of sense for him. Should you not want him at the bottom, say as another leadoff hitter like a number 9. Mets haven't done that much with Marte. They defer to guys like Harrison Bader and Tyrone Taylor far more than Starling. But Starling Marte, again, who's had a very productive season for the Mets on the offensive end when healthy, looking to do more production for the Mets and soon. Now, folks, that is the latest there on Starling Marte and Christian Scott. Let's get into the big stuff that I want to break down with each and every one of you today. And this has to do with a report from, yes, everyone's favorite reporter, said absolutely nobody, and that is Andy Martino of SNY. Andy came out with an article today. With a trade deadline passed, there's still one way for the Mets to add good players. This is what we have to say. On Monday, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic wrote about the possibility that the Texas Rangers could place impact players on waivers this month, like pitchers Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney, David Robertson, Kirby Yates, and Jose Leclerc. Yes, you heard that correctly. This year, the Mets front office has already thought about the fact that it holds 2 advantages in adding talent this way: their win-loss record and their financial muscle. Waiver claims are awarded in reverse order of teams' records. At the moment, the Mets' .517 winning percentage before Monday's game, obviously that has dropped since then, would have the first crack at players relative to the wildcard competitors in the Atlanta Braves, the San Diego Padres, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Obviously, teams like the Giants and the Cardinals would be able to have an opportunity to acquire said players before the Mets, but in the case of, some of these teams as well, the Cardinals, Pirates on the outside looking in, they have tighter payrolls that they're working with versus a Mets team that has the financial flexibility to easily eat a contract for at minimum the remainder of the year, if not another year, should these guys be more than rentals in the case, which I know Eovaldi, Heaney, Robertson, Yates, and Leclerc, they don't all have the same contract statuses. It's also insane to potentially fathom the idea that yes, the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series last year, could find themselves dropping some key assets. But again, if you're Texas, if you're not going to go anywhere this year, if you know that it's too much of a hill to climb, then it makes sense to part ways with some dead weight of salary that you're not going to return beyond the 2024 season. This is where the Mets can pounce. This is the last opportunity the Mets have to secure some key talent, if you will, throughout the waiver claim wire before the end of the month. So again, we've seen this in the past. We saw the Mets do it to a degree when they took on Trevor Gott last year because they ate Chris Flexen's contract, right? Mind you, that was a flop of a deal to begin with. Gott was not good with the Mets at all, funny enough, from the Mariners. Again, we just need to stop trading with the Mariners because they continue to salary dump with the Mets, where the Mets don't benefit from it. Not nearly enough. Love Ryan Stanek stuff. He has not been that guy consistently yet for the Mets. Hopefully that happens sooner than later before they cut ties with him. Chris Flexen was just a contract eaten right away. They literally cut him the same day shortly after. Trevor Gott, I remember a lot of Mets fans upset with Trevor Gott at the time. But what are a couple things the Mets could desperately need right now outside of obviously some oomph in this lineup with their lack of consistency? Starting pitching, bullpen. What can we have here? A potential David Robertson reunion? Are you kidding me? Is that possible? It is, folks. There's D-Rob, that sexy man. We all miss him in Queens. We all do. David Robertson this season, folks. 51 innings, 13.15 K per nine, a 2.6 walks per nine, a 2.8 ERA, a 2.98 expected ERA. He has been absolutely dominant. And what does David Robertson bring more than most? It's an ability to absolutely dominate lefty hitters. David Robertson has consistently been one of the best relievers in baseball on getting lefties out. That is exactly why, if the Mets were to find themselves somehow, some way landing D-Rob yet again in this waiver claim situation throughout the month, that they would land a true lefty out option better than anything that they have, even far better than Danny Young, their lone southpaw option in this bullpen. This would give the Mets the flexibility to actually go without a lefty option in their bullpen should they wish, knowing that they do have multiple relievers that can get lefties out at a quality rate, and David Robertson would lead the team in that regard. D-Rob, again, by a show of hands, let me know live, and for my replay viewers watching this video as a separate segment, let me know in the comments down below, are you in favor or against the Mets acquiring the veteran right-hander and David Robertson, who again has championship pedigree success, so much great success with the Yankees, was awesome with the Mets up until he was dealt last year to the Miami Marlins. Absolutely insane that was already a year plus ago, folks. There we go. 43 innings this season for Kirby Yates, the veteran right-hander, a roughly 13 K per nine, a 4 walks per nine, a 1.04 ERA on the season, a 1.74 expected ERA, and a 2 FIP. So even the expected numbers are disgusting for Kirby Yates, who is having an anomaly of a season. He has not had a year this good in his career, Kirby, going all the way back to 2019 with the San Diego Padres. That's the last time Kirby Yates had a season ERA in the 1 range, and the expected numbers are brilliant. Literally, Kirby Yates, folks, who's been in the league for a decade, the 37-year-old is having a career year at the age of 37. And it's not even a fluke. That's the crazy thing. Look at all the numbers. They're all legit there. Kirby Yates, I would take him every day of the week. Could you imagine Kirby Yates or David Robertson picked up by the Mets? That would literally be the biggest Imagine the Mets taking advantage of the Rangers, who decide not to sell off at the trade deadline, but instead sold off for nothing in the waiver wire, kind of like what we saw the Angels do last year, where they added Lucas Giolito, they added Matt Moore, they added all these guys, and then when they realized that they weren't going to be able to go on a postseason run, they just cut them. They just cut them all. We've seen this in years past. It's becoming more of a commonality for teams that are not going to make playoffs, that realize it kind of sooner. I think the Rangers' fate is obvious. Hopefully they don't make playoffs, so this becomes a reality, because I want Kirby Yates, I want David Robertson. And now let's take a look at another arm that could be fantastic for the Mets on the starting pitching front, and that is going to be Mr. Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi this season, 120 innings, roughly 9 K per nine, a 2 walks per nine, a 3.75 ERA, a 4 expected ERA this season for Mr. Nathan Eovaldi, a 3.95 FIP, a 3.33 expected FIP. Sign me the hell up, 117 strikeouts. I don't need to see anything more. That's enough. That is more than enough to warrant the Mets going out of the way to try to land the starting pitcher. Nathan Eovaldi, when we take a look at his contract, a 2-year deal, so Nathan has a 2025 vesting option. That's an opportunity for the Mets to pounce should they wish, because you would be getting an option of a starter for 2025 should the vest hit. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case. Becomes a player option with 300 innings pitched from 2023 to 2024. So, okay, he's going to get there. He's going to get there. So, okay, Nathan Eovaldi is going to have himself a player option because he threw 144 innings in 2023. He's already thrown 120 this season. He's, as long as he stays healthy and continues to get his starts, he's going to get close. He's going to get very close to the 300 range. Maybe he won't get there. Again, we'll see how deep he goes into his games for sure. But he's one of those guys, if the Mets could find themselves snagging, my goodness, my God, my gracious, this would do wonders for them. Took you long enough. Jose Leclerc this season. What do we got with Jose? A 4.5 ERA, a 3.84 expected ERA, 12 K per nine, roughly 5 walks per nine. So that's where we have the bugaboo. Jose Leclerc, an electric arsenal of a right-hander. A guy that can come in and close games for you, that can be a setup option as well. Electric stuff when he's right, who who had a 2.68 ERA and a 3.1 not only last year on the expected, but the year before that. Leclerc, again, this is just the ebbs and flows of being a reliever that, will have good years and maybe will have some inflated years. The walk rate definitely is inflated a little bit. Last year he had a 4.4. He's gradually went up in the walks from 2022 to 2024 from roughly 4 to 4.4 to 4.8 this season. But mind you, this is also the same Mets team that acquired Adam Ottavino, who had 4+ walks per nine when they acquired him. Had his first year with the Mets with a 2 walks per nine. Just for some context, David Robertson, remember when the Mets acquired him? He had a 5 walks per nine when the Mets acquired him from the season prior there, playing time with the Cubs and the Phillies, and he went and posted right around a 2 walks per nine with the Mets. So again, just because of what a pitcher was doing with a previous organization does not necessarily mean that's what you're going to get when you acquire them. Leclerc, though, definitely not only a solid relief option, but one that I wouldn't be overly opposed to should the Mets find themselves dabbling in. But yes, it goes without saying, the obvious ones in David Robertson and Kirby Yates, both guys who have been able to handle different markets. Robertson, who knows the Mets very well, understands this organization better than most. I would love to see a D-Rob reunion, and I would absolutely love to see Nathan Eovaldi picked up again, should those things become a possibility. So Mets fans, I would love to hear from you guys again in the comments down below. What was your biggest takeaway on all the latest big Mets updates here that I relayed your way, including the big ones on, yes, their potential possibility to land some key players from either the Texas Rangers or other rival teams that we are seeing, not rival teams, but just teams out there that are throwing away some players because they don't want to eat their salary for the remainder of the year, aren't going to bring them back beyond 2024, and realize that their playoff hopes have unfortunately come to an end. That feels the case for the Texas Rangers. Let's see if it's the same for others. That'll do it for our latest segment here, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. If you watch us live in our post-game segment, I appreciate you guys greatly. If you watch this as an individual video, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I will see you all for our next latest Mets content, whether that's individual videos, whether that's post-game coverage every single day. Either way, I'll see you all again real soon. And until then, have a fantastic rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. And this is your guy, Wardy, signing out. Peace out, everybody. Have a great one.